Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. You know how this works. One source, one big idea today. It's an article called Stop Egoic Intentions.
Sounds intense.
It is, a little bit,
Yeah.
but also really thought-provoking. It was published just last week on February 7th on www.innerway.com.au. That's innerway.com.o by Shawn Wondunna-Foley. Super quick read, only takes about a minute, but it got me thinking. Like, what if our choices, the ones we think are just personal, are actually holding humanity back from, like, its true potential?
Huh. Yeah, I see where you're going with that. Definitely some big questions there.
Exactly. So let's dive in. The core message here is pretty powerful, right?
Mm.
Wondunna-Foley is basically saying we got to ditch these egoic intentions if we want to evolve as individuals and as a species.
Right, right. And they're not just talking about, like, everyday selfishness here, are they?
No, it's deeper than that.
It's more about the stuff that drives conflict and separation, like those desires for power, control, dominance even.
Yeah, they use some pretty stark examples to illustrate this. Wars, obviously, but also lies, violence, systems like slavery, even scarcity, they tie that in. Like all these things stemming from actions that are basically ego-driven.
And thinking about it, that connects to, like, the whole sweep of history, right? It's almost like a pattern. All those empires rising and falling, all that fighting over resources, territory, always someone wanting more power.
Totally. So what's the alternative? Because the article does offer one. Wondunna-Foley talks about shifting from ego to spirit. But how do we actually do that? I mean, that's a pretty big leap.
It is big, yeah. I think at its heart, it's about recognizing that interconnectedness. We're not these isolated individuals battling it out. It's more like everything's connected and our actions ripple outwards.
Okay, but how do you translate that into daily life?
Well, it could be little things like choosing to really listen in an argument instead of just needing to be right. Or at work, thinking about how to cooperate instead of just compete. Maybe even being more mindful of, how much we consume. It's like a shift in focus from me to we.
Which brings us to another phrase. Wondunna-Foley uses false narratives of separation, scarcity, and inequality. What's that all about?
It's like those stories we tell ourselves that keep us feeling limited. Like, we're all separate, there's not enough to go around, some people are just better than others.
But those are just stories.
Right, not necessarily objective truth. And I think that's key, because if we can start to see them as stories, we can choose different ones. Ones that are more about unity, abundance.
Truth.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Wondunna-Foley seems pretty convinced that we can create a new reality based on this stuff. They even call it a new Earth. And then there's that whole type 1 civilization thing, which honestly kind of sounds like science fiction to me.
It does, a bit. But the concept is fascinating. It's basically about a civilization that's figured out how to use its planet's energy sustainably, like full harmony between technology and nature.
Whoa. So we're talking big picture stuff here, from personal choices all the way to the fate of, like, the entire planet.
Yeah, I think that's the point Wondunna-Foley is making. It's all connected.
For sure.
Yeah.
So if you had to pick one key takeaway from this article, what would it be?
It's hard to pick just one, but I think it's got to be the power of choice. Wondunna-Foley isn't just complaining about the problems, they're offering a way forward.
Yeah.
And it starts with each of us, choosing to act from a place of connection, of spirit, rather than pure ego.
And maybe, just maybe, all those individual choices add up to create that new Earth, that type 1 civilization where we're all in sync.
Maybe, yeah.
So here's a question for you, and for anyone listening. If humanity actually pulled this off, this shift from ego to spirit, what would that world look like? What amazing things could we achieve?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Definitely something to think about.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Stop Egoic Intentions. We hope it's given you all some food for thought.
Hope so. Lots to ponder, for sure.
Absolutely. All right, until next time.
See